okay, you want to be a director, you have to choose one of these three things. Divorce, heart attack, depression, choose one. That's the only way. That is the only way to survive. But they don't work as hard as me.
Yeah.
Why are you promoting him or her over me? So that is the best thing that happened to me in my career. Sadly, I didn't ever felt this way in the corporate world.
I always ask myself this question, even though I already had an answer, but over the years, like, I kind of question myself every year, like, to what end?
The video that I just posted 2 days ago, someone said this, like, you're making a mistake. This person said, you're making a mistake retiring at 38.
Hey guys, I'm very excited to share that I'm starting like a new podcast session to really interview interesting people that I find in my lives, and I want to make a new connection to them. So if it really helps, please help to subscribe to the channel, and what guests you want to be on my channel, I'll try to ask them over and make a new connection every time a new guest comes. For this episode today is my first Pioneer episode, and I'm speaking to Shao from Shao Chun YouTube channel. I first watched his video on YouTube talking about his retirement life in Thailand, Chiang Mai, and I'm really interested in how he pivoted his channel talking about Google as an ex-employee and also his income sources and also how he invests in the most recent video. So without further ado, let's move on to how I interview Shao on his retirement plan and his story. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored to have Mr. Shao Chun here with me today because I've been a huge fan of his channel. Like, I see him, wow, this guy is super commutes. And fun fact about what I know about Shao, right? Because the first video I watched on him is actually on the Thailand condo. At one point in time, I was very interested in how does this life actually work. And he was giving this condo tour and I was very amazed about it. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Shao to our studio today. Shao, please introduce yourself to our guests and viewers.
Thank you, Chris. That's very nice of you. The funny thing is, Chris, you actually went to Chiang Mai and then you reached out, but
I did.
it happened to be not in Chiang Mai. Such a, more like would have shown you around.
Yeah.
So, Chris, thanks for having me here. My name is Shao. Like you said, I'm also an aspiring YouTuber. Not as good as yours, not in terms of the momentum, the track record. I actually watch a lot of your content when I was still in the corporate world as well. And it's people like you that actually give me the permission to sort of think that, hey, this is something that I can do as well. So yeah, to your audience, I consider myself now a content creator. And previously I was in the corporate workforce for many years. My journey is because I got laid off. As I shared in my channel, I got laid off. Throughout that process, financial independence was something that I was always very passionate about.
Right.
Because of the layoff, I said, hey, I took a look at my finances and I figured there was no pressure to immediately find a job. So I finally had the opportunity to try YouTube, which is very ironic because I used to work in Google.
Yeah.
And YouTube is part of Google.
Yes.
So then it's only after I got kicked out of Google that I gave myself the permission, the courage to actually do that. So yeah, that's a little bit of me.
Yeah, that's amazing, man, because I'm very honored when Shao came on because I want to see myself in this kind of life path where there are people who are already ahead of me and then I envision myself, okay, so they have done this, they have experienced this, like what can I learn from them? So Shao is a kind of online mentor that I see. But speaking of which, right, I think back in my corporate days, I don't know if it's for you, but I felt that people in my office or in the international HQ, they kind of have this kind of corporate identity. The way I put it is that they tie their own branding, their own self-worth to the job, the title. And I also want to bring it back to your corporate days, right? Because maybe our audience, they don't really know what to do at Google. And Google is always a prestige branding, prestige name. So what do you do at Google? And do you see this kind of corporate identity thing really like hinder how one should really live their life? Share with us about your life.
Sure. So maybe I'll share what I did at Google first. So I was in the sales team of Google. Now, when I graduated from NTU, which I think you also graduated.
I did.
Here, MBS also, right?
Yes. Accountants.
Yeah. Mine is the business school.
Business and finance.
I always look up to the company like Google.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if you felt that way, but I came from business or finance background. Like, you think of tech company, you think that you will never have a chance to work for such a cool company because they usually hire engineers or like very tech coders, very technical people, right? What I found out is that actually all these tech companies, they actually hire non-tech people as well. So my background after I graduated was always sales. I was just in a bank working in the sales team, so selling financial products. Right. So then I realized that sales is such a universal skill set that I could convince someone in the HR team or Google that even though I have no technical or tech background, I could sell. So that's where I was. I was with the sales team. I was there for 8 years. I started as a individual seller. So in the tech space, we call IC, individual contributor as a seller. And then eventually I moved to the strategy team. I had the opportunity to work in their US headquarters. Then I came back and I finally led my own team. I look after the whole business as well. And then I got laid off as well.
But what was your title at that point in time?
It's called account strategist. Very funny. They call it account strategist. So you're supposed to strategize for the person, but actually you're just a salesperson.
Right.
But if you put the word salesperson, then a lot of people get turned off. Or like it's not as sexy, so we call it account strategist. So I started as an account strategist, then eventually I worked myself up to a team lead and then a team manager.
I see. So my understanding, my limited understanding of sales team is that usually those who run the sales, they get the commission, right? And then even the managers, they do get some partial commissions.
Yes.
But up to the director level, they kind of stop taking the commissions. I mean, for certain companies, because they more of manage the people rather than they run the sales. Is that how it works?
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So in tech company, which you can apply to any other industry in the career, there are multiple ways to get your compensation. So salespeople, of course, they have the fixed pay, but they have the variable pay as well.
Right.
So usually the variable pay can be even more than the fixed pay.
Yes.
Right. And subsequently, if you work for tech companies, they also have the equity component. So like you said, yes, as an individual seller, I see all the way to the team manager, even the business, they do have commission as well. But once you reach director, your compensation will no longer have commission.
Right.
But huge, way high of it is equity.
Equity. Right.
So my director, I confidently can say all the directors in a good year, their equity award is 7 figures.
7
figures. For big tech, big tech,
Yeah.
big tech. We don't talk about startups and everything.
Yeah.
So they are happy to not have the commission. They're not missing out.
Because they don't have a KPI then.
Yes, I mean, their job has different stress, but then they don't have the stress of like, knocking on people's door, getting rejected, getting scolded by customers.
Oh, of course. I think the main question is, when you look at all these directors or senior level people back at Google, do you think they felt happy about it for their positions?
Of course, because earlier you mentioned about corporate identity. I think most Singaporeans can relate to it, right? Like, let's say during Chinese New Year, when you meet your family or like distant cousin or whatever, the first thing you will say is, "Hi, my name is Shao and I work for da-da-da," right? You don't say like, "Hi, I'm a husband. Hi, I am passionate about football," or like, "I enjoy rock climbing," right? You say your job immediately after your name, right? If you grew up in that environment and you work in a company where everyone also puts their corporate identity second after their name, then when you become a VP, you become director, of course you feel good. And I can even tell you that when I was in Google, that's exactly what I wanted to do. So when I was laid off, right, I was very bitter about it. Very bitter because I was targeting to become a director.
Right.
I even wrote on my career, every start of the year, you're supposed to write your career plan, submit to HR, and then they'll hold you accountable. Say, I want to be the director. We want to be a director. I don't care, director, whatever team, I just want to be a director. Because now I can tell people I am a director. Okay. So when I was laid off, I casually mentioned, so a friend of mine who's a director, he reached out to me and say, "Hey, how are you doing? How can I help?" Everything. I said, "I'm very bitter and I'm very sad because I no longer have the opportunity to like become a director here." And he himself is a director. And he told me this. He said, "Okay, you want to be a director? You have to choose one of these 3 things. Divorce, heart attack, depression. Choose one."
Wow, divorce, heart attack, and depression.
Yes.
All this doesn't sound
good. But he's just telling me the trade-off because even though I'm in the industry, I'm in the company, I still see things. I think a lot of us are guilty of that. We only see the good side of it. So I see director, wow, they directors in Google, they got a lot of perks. They have admin person to handle all your admin stuff. So you no longer need it. You definitely fly business class in all your business trip, right? And then you can stack up all your miles. Like their mile collection game is on the next level. Right? They not only no need to they collect a different level, they get the admin person to do all the admin for them, right?
I've seen that too.
I saw it only the good things. So he was telling me that like then he started naming names and I'll be confidential about it. But he's saying like this person works so much, have no relationship with the wife, the kids barely see him or her, right? This person works so much, got a heart attack, got cancer, whatever. And this person, like, yes, everything it is, but lonely because nobody can relate because you're just at the office all the time, or all you talk about is your work.
Right.
So that was a big moment for me, a big wake up moment. Like, is this therefore a curse or this a blessing? Or is this like, I got laid off and everything, no longer opportunity. But sometimes we take that corporate identity a little bit too far. And when it's being taken away, you suddenly feel naked.
Yeah, I also want to bring back to this experience where, when I was in a previous company, right, I saw some of these CEO or MD people leave the organization and realized that maybe in 1 month, people start to think, oh, how I miss him, how I miss him. But a few months later, nobody really mentioned this person in such an important title or position in your company. And no one really bothers after he or she has left. Yeah, it is.
It's quite harsh, right?
Yeah,
It's a bit harsh. And
like you are only remembered for your position. Like maybe if a few years down the line, if I ask you, you even recognize this person down the street? Probably not. Maybe just a faint reflection. And yeah, it was also part of my wake up call. If we tie our own self-worth to the corporate identity or our job title, life will be quite sad.
yes, yeah. So instead of focusing on tying our self-worth, maybe we build our net worth. I want to be bad.
Yeah, really. Speaking about the net worth, I was just watching your video as of the date of recording. This is in November. So, like 1 day ago, Shao posted his breakdown of his 2 million USD portfolio. Yeah, and it was very transparent. I would say that someone you would expect at Google who have worked in the investment bank before, you would expect his investment to be like really diverse, like all these high risk equities or maybe some hedge funds that you never even heard of. But in fact, it was relatively simple. So, Shao, maybe you want to share with us like your breakdown of your current $2 million portfolio?
So just to give some context, I've always been, similar to you, Chris, I've always been passionate about financial independence. So throughout my career, besides optimizing my career to make more money and to always aim for promotion, always aim for pay increase, I was always investing quite aggressive as well.
Yeah.
I consider myself very fortunate that, I have a portfolio of 2 million USD. Now, some people may think it's a lot, some people may think that it is not enough, especially with the cost of living in Singapore. But to me, I think that this is the right number and I'm very happy with it. So about half of it is purely in the S&P UCITS ETF, the accumulating SME. So I don't even collect the dividends, it just goes straight into it. So total, my portfolio took about 14 years to get to where it is right now. I only started buying the UCITS and accumulating one maybe in about year 6 or year 5. Because back then you too late lah. You only started your channel 2 years ago. If you started 5 years and I watch it, then I realized, oh, there's actually better like tax incentive or better like ETFs out there, right?
You all learn someday along the way.
Yeah. My first ETF I bought was on SGX, the one listed on SGX.
Yeah, I think that's the standard one.
That's the standard one, yeah. Then you realize, oh, there's actually like lower fees, and you go on. Sorry. My first one is not the one listed. My first one was with the SRS.
SRS, which one?
With Lion Global.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. With OCBC, that's
I see.
SR. Then you check out the annual fee crash.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but they also need to make money lah.
Yes.
So half of it is in S&P 500. About 35%, if I remember correctly, 30 to 35% is in my CPF.
Is it like 3 accounts?
No, I actually watched your video as well, the one that you said that you have 1 million.
Yes.
So you actually, I like how you phrase it. You only consider the ordinary account.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
The other two are same with me. So 35% is in ordinary account and Singapore savings bond.
Okay.
And fixed D.
I see.
And then the rest is about 5% is in Google shares. So that is the best thing that happened to me in my career, to be given Google shares and to be working in Google during the tech boom.
Okay. I think to give a bit of context, when do you start receiving Google shares as compensation? Which year?
2016.
2016. And so was the cheap back then.
Okay. They split shares multiple
they
times already, but when I joined, it was I think $600.
Yeah.
Then it came to 1,000 something. Then they split it to $100, like 10 to 1. And then now it is still, I can't remember the number, but it's I meet multiple times over. And
I could only imagine.
yeah, but then that's when my income tax also exploded.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Because for people who don't know, right, equity-based compensation, they are also taxed as a form of income. Don't think that you can just happily own shares from your company and then it's not taxed.
That's exactly what I thought. Okay. So I was like, when Ira sent the big paper, I was like, how come so expensive? Because the thing about equity is you don't get the money.
Yes.
You just go into your brokerage account. So you don't see in your bank account. But then the IRS tax bill is like so much higher. So then I realized, oh, they tax you on the day you receive the share.
Correct.
Then if the next day the share drops by 50%, they still tax you on that. So I was like, oh, okay. So then that's where I started SRS and like find whatever way to reduce my income tax as well. So yeah, about 5% is in Alphabet stock, and I think I'll hold it for a very long time because Google had, in my opinion, a big player in the whole AI revolution. So I think that
But back then there was no AI, right?
There's
so
no
what
AI.
was your conviction? Like to really hold Google through the ups and downs before even the whole AI thing start coming? Because it was pre-2020.
Yes. The egoistic side of me will want to tell you that, oh, because I'm very convicted of the company, blah, 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 I've done my research. And the truth is, it's part of my corporate identity.
Yeah.
Right? They give me Google shares, then I hold on to Google shares. Then like, when Google got another good earnings, then I can feel even more like shocked that you know, I'm a Google employee, I also buy Google shares, right? I didn't think of diversification. I didn't think of like, if back then, like, things didn't turn out well for the company, then I'm screwed up because my fixed income, my passive income, everything all tied to it, right?
Jialat.
And then the other 5% is in this ETF, the China Tech ETF, losing money. I lost money. That was during COVID times. Then again, I was a bit yaya lah. I was like, oh, okay, Google gained so much, my S&P gained so much.
And you want to diversify.
Diversify, right? Then like it go against my own rule, right? Because I already won the bet in US. I already think that S&P 500 is good enough. Then like I see like Alibaba every day, like every single day. They make then I was like, wow, okay. Then I was like, oh, I want to be smart. Instead of buying single stock, let me buy an ETF.
I remember it was the time where Ray Dalio's book, The Changing World Order video came about. So it kind of like influenced a lot of people.
Yes. I think she got some kickback. And the last 5% is in gold and crypto.
I think that is quite similar to how I allocate my portfolio because it's not like all into equities. Like recently I had an asset allocation content where I talk about not everything should just be in equity or even in S&P 500. Because if you look at it, a lot of people online, they say you must diversify, but the way they diversify is across different industries of equity. So it's the same type of asset. I also had the consideration, or I already did the allocation to look at other form of asset like cryptocurrency, like precious metals like gold, or even business equity you have, and investment property if you are able to.
Is that something you're looking into?
Yes, that has always been on the table. I'm just do not really document about it because I'm not in a position to do it yet. But when I'm in a position to do so, I will share with my viewers lah. But I want to go back to the very thing that, because one of the more important things of having a good retirement portfolio is to have that AUM, assets under management. And in order to gain that AUM, you would first need to have that high income. Can you share with us like what were the strategic decisions that you made in Google that led to that high income phase?
Just before I talk about that, I share a little bit about it. You are absolutely right that you need to have a high AUM, or you need to have something first before you start investing. Then the compounding can work.
Yes.
On YouTube, there's a very popular content out there that says that, you know, you got to make your first 100K first, right? And that is actually a lot of truth in it. I think it was, who was it that talked about it? The guy.
Charlie Monk.
Yes, he was the one who popularized this, right? You got to have your first 100K first. So that's why sometimes when I meet like people who, they just ask like, oh, you know, I watched your video, should I invest in the S&P 500 now? Or should I start investing? And they clearly are still like in their earlier stage of their career. I would actually encourage them to focus on their career first. To build up your muscle of like your paycheck being, it's not like you just squeeze out. Like sometimes people make like maybe $2,000 a month, then they say, I want to invest. But in Singapore, I don't think it's realistic because a lot of your money goes away. So maybe it's better to focus on increasing your paycheck first, then allocate something to investment rather than like not really be so frugal and then just to try. And then even if like $2,000 or $3,000 a month, how much can you put in your portfolio?
Correct.
Let's say you put $500 a month, which is a lot of your take-home pay already, right? And $500 doesn't grow. Imagine if you increase your salary to 5,000, then you put 1,000, you put 1,002, it compounds much faster as well.
Yeah. In Chinese, there's this saying, say, right, 努力是害怕放错的方向. That means that if you put the hard work in, you put the hours, you put the effort in, but if you do it in the wrong direction, then now you have double the effort. You need to reverse it and then go again in the right direction. I think this is what a lot of people are facing. They may be very hardworking in analyzing what kind of investments, what kind of strategy, what kind of stock should they buy. But with their relatively small cash that they can allocate into investments, it really doesn't make a significant difference. Even if you put maybe $1,000 per year, right? That's very little, considered very little. And then you earn like 50% on it, which is super returns, 50%. How much is that? 1,005. It doesn't really make sense on it. You really need to at least have that high AUM or, increase the income earning power first. Get the muscle first, then you can talk about compounding at even greater percent. Okay, Shao, so because there's a lot of opinions around this as I do YouTube content, right? People are saying, why you don't show your investment returns? Like, okay, all your money is coming from YouTube. And for your case, I think the general comments will be, all your money is coming from your high income corporate job. So you're not that good in investing, but I think I share the view that you don't really need to just be very good in investing. Investing is just one part of it. You invest in equities, right? But some of it can be invested into your branding, investing into your active income, right? You build your own brand so that you can gain a higher income. Or, you invest in your career, your networks, you go and build rapport with your senior leaders. That's where you have better job opportunities. And the fact that you have such a high career in Google, I think you will be able to share better instead of focusing on just your passive income investments. Yeah, you work on building your own brand, building your own earning power. Like, please share with us, is that the right way or not?
That's the only way. That is the only way to survive in this economy where AI is increasingly AI layoff outsourcing. AI is a new enemy of employee, but outsourcing and layoff was always there.
Right.
My parents were my mom was laid off. During the Asian financial crisis, this was always there. So you talk about personal brand. It is the most important thing. It is the thing that gives you a differentiation from someone else, from being outsourced, from being automated. And one very good career advice I got is you have to be the celebrity of your industry. So if you work extremely hard and you prepare, let's say I'm a speaker, I'm a corporate speaker. I work very hard. I read up 1,000 books of business and everything, and then I quote up my price. No one will pay. No one knows how many books you read.
Yeah.
But if I suddenly become like Richard Branson,
Yeah.
or if I become Jack Ma, and I don't even need to read a single book, I walk in, any university, any corporate will pay me whatever amount I quoted times 10.
Just for the branding alone.
Just for branding alone. Yeah. So branding is really, and when I was younger, I had this manager. He's also Singaporean, so he could understand when I was coming. I said like, why am I working in this company? I work so hard, but you don't recognize it. Your bosses don't recognize it. But then other people of other backgrounds, which you can go and guess, are much more eloquent in talking.
Right.
They know how to brand themselves. They know how to present themselves, but they don't work as hard as me.
Yeah.
Why are you promoting him or her over me? So I was very outraged. And he actually told me, he said, can you take out your phone?
Uh-huh.
Took out. See, what phone do you have? Let's say for illustration, let's say an Apple. Right? He said, you got an Apple, right? So, okay. Why do you buy Apple? Is it the cheapest phone? I said, no. Is it the most camera superior phone out there? I said, no, there are other China phones that is it the most compatible phone? No, iOS is quite locked in. You can't do this, you can't do that and everything. So why did you get it? Because of the brand, right?
Right.
So then, if you yourself are willing to buy something just because of the brand and associate the brand, then you yourself can elevate your own brand as well. So if you want to earn a higher return, you got to focus on branding, not just operations, not just execution.
Correct. And that's one of the most important piece of advice if you just want to take away from this video, to Google your own name. All right. For example, my name is Chris Chong and then my brand is Honey Money. Okay, I will Google Chris Chong Honey Money and see what are the search results. Okay, what am I known for or what am I not known for? And then for Shao Chun, right, he could like Google his own name, which I'm very sure he probably did. And then he will see all these CNBC interviews of him. That's how the branding kinds of take off, right? So challenge today, go and Google your own name and see where does your social branding goes to.
Yeah. And if you don't have, you can start building it, right? You can have a LinkedIn profile, you can have your own portfolio, your own website. And I think SEO is also now with ChatGPT being such a popular, you also need to optimize for that as well.
Yeah.
So it's a whole skill required.
Speaking of which, I recently did an AI search like ChatGPT about myself. So it was actually quite accurate.
It's quite accurate, right? It's quite scary. Yeah.
Because it was able to pick up data from all these SEO websites that I had appeared on. And I'm very sure it will be the same for you too.
Yes.
So the very goal for you, next time, if you ask AI about your name and whatever brand that you stand for, if it's accurate enough, means you kind of have a little bit of branding, at least in the AI database. I want to move on to the more exciting part where I first know Shao for the Chiang Mai Joe arbitrage.
Yes.
Because this is something I have actually explored. In fact, my version was in Malaysia.
Yeah, so I actually watched your video before I created my video.
Okay.
I was like, because I was still new and I'm still new to YouTube, like how to position, how to do storytelling. So I then searched like, but Chiang Mai or Thailand is not popular, but JB is. So I just typed out Singaporeans living in JB. So then your video was one of the top.
Wow.
I watched it. Yeah.
Okay.
Full circle moment. Full circle moment.
Full circle, right? So for context, I published this video in 2022 about my plan to retire in Malaysia. Maybe not to really retire, but to try out another way of living outside of Singapore. And back then, 2022, I think it was still like the tail game of the COVID era. Yeah, so a lot of people were like, oh, you can do that. But the idea was not really practiced. Then 2023, I executed that idea. I went on to move to Malaysia, Johor. And then 2024, I came back because I need to stay in my PTO lah. So
hit the MOP.
Yeah, to hit my minimum occupation period. So that's by law. Okay, which is why I'm now back in Singapore for those of you who don't know yet. But I'm really interested in Shao's story, right? Because what made you choose Chiang Mai?
So mine is like, okay, I got laid off. Then I look at my finances. I don't really need to find another job. There's no pressure, thankfully. So then I was like, okay, then do I want to continue staying here in Singapore? And back then I just renewed my rental lease, and then I got laid off. And then my wife got pregnant. I got pregnant. So then I was like, okay, since I no longer have a job here, so I asked myself, why am I paying this rental? Because it allows me to commute to work and gives us our own space. And like, why am I here in Singapore? Because I was working.
Okay, before that, right? So you said you were renting. So okay, so you do not own any property in Singapore?
No, I do not own a property. I still do not own a property. I rent a condo.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's about, I managed to negotiate. Just now we talk about personal branding.
Yeah.
The landlord Googled me.
Oh, the landlord.
Then he saw, hey, this guy worked for Google. Okay, legitimate tenant. So then give me a discount.
Oh, I thought it was going the other way around. Oh, this guy works at Google. I'm going to chop him with
the funny thing is the landlord also works in tech.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so then I think he or she had bad experience with like people, mess up the place. So then they're like, okay, this is a reliable tenant. I won't like not pay or whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so then, but you're right, it could go the other way around as well, right? Context, I never lived outside of Singapore before.
Okay.
With the exception of being sent overseas for work or like an exchange during university, I never lived outside of Singapore. So then me and my wife was like, hey, isn't this the perfect opportunity to explore living somewhere else?
So it was your wife's idea?
Yes, of course. Okay. All the good idea from my wife.
Oh, okay.
All the bad idea from me.
The wife is always right.
Yeah. So we thought about it. Then like, okay, we thought about like Malaysia. Then I was like, but then Malaysia, and you can share more context. In some sense, it's very similar to Singapore. At least they share some similarities.
Yeah.
So then I said like, okay, do I really want to go to something that I'm very familiar with, or I can go to something that is completely different and I get to see a different culture, a different way of life. Now, of course, then I also technically could then say like, Ireland or like London or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or Portugal, right?
Yeah.
Why Thailand? So Thailand was my sweet spot. It is not too far from Singapore, but it's not too similar to Singapore. But Singaporeans love a lot of things about Thailand.
Yes.
So it's still like, there are overlaps as well. And ever since I moved to Thailand, right, before when I moved, people would say, then how are you going to visit your family and your parents? Since I moved to Thailand, right, they don't ask me to come. They want to come to Thailand instead. Because Singaporeans, I think you love Thailand, love the US, right? But then it was choice between Bangkok and anything else. Then to me, Bangkok is like very much like Singapore, metropolitan traffic and skyscrapers. And I was like, okay, this is a rare opportunity that I gave myself the opportunity to get out of my comfort zone. Why not go to somewhere slower? Then when they Chiang Mai, coffee culture, they have farmers there.
And digital nomads.
A lot of digital nomads. And very friendly, very open to digital nomads. So, and the cost is much lower than Bangkok as well. Much lower. So that's how we selected Chiang Mai.
Okay, but before that, have you been to Chiang Mai like a few times to really experience what it's like?
As a tourist lah.
As a tourist.
But in my move, which is the next video I'm gonna make, is like I would encourage you to go down there for maybe a week first.
Yeah.
To look, see, don't make the decision based on outdated information like, many years ago you went there, and don't make that decision based on your experience as a tourist.
Correct.
Because you only go and you go all the tourist areas.
Yeah.
And you got to experience if you really can live in this place.
Yeah. I also want to share that for my Chiang Mai trip, right? I actually booked it in the impression that I want to visit Shao. Yeah, but because I don't want to pressure him, like I make this trip because of him. I set my dates first. Then I asked him over LinkedIn, like, hey, are you free on this day? Like we could schedule a chat or what. But unfortunately, he was not in Chiang Mai. Like
I think I was in Bangkok. That was when my baby was just born.
Yeah.
So we were doing all the health checkup and everything.
correct.
Another thing, so sorry. Hopefully next time I get to see you in Chiang Mai. Hope you still enjoy yourself.
I did.
You went there with your wife? Or
Yes. Okay. I went there not for a holiday, I went there as a workcation, right? Because I heard that it was always a digital nomad hub, cafe culture and all that stuff. And it was my first trip to Chiang Mai. So I went to Bangkok like multiple times. Right? So I just want to experience a different Thailand. And what surprised me on Chiang Mai with that, quite different from Bangkok. Bangkok is like very rah-rah, so much loud entertainment stuff and all the very unhinged stuff. Okay.
Unhinged or very commercial.
Yeah.
Very like,
The nice way to put it. Like.
yeah.
Chiang Mai is quite like the people are very, I mean the impression it gave me like people are very hardworking. Like okay, people are really serious about work. Like they don't mess around. And the English is generally better than those that I've seen in Bangkok. Yeah, maybe because Chiang Mai are quite used to people from international travelers, snow nomads. So I think the English standard is a little bit better. That's what I feel lah, which may be different from people to people. And Chiang Mai is not so crowded like Bangkok.
Yeah.
I could call a
boat.
Yes.
By the way, this is a travel tip. He's right. Boat is way cheaper.
I never use Grab Thailand. I use boat.
Yeah.
So boat in Bangkok, I could wait like 20 to 30 minutes to get a car to pick up. But in Chiang Mai, max 10 minutes.
Because the traffic is much.
Yeah, much better. You don't see those crowded jams in Bangkok, and the airport is so much nearer. Yeah, so I like that. And yeah, I really enjoyed my stay in Chiang Mai. But it was really like a workation trip. So most of my days are spent in the hotel. So I filmed a lot of videos in the hotel, including the lounge and all that. But the sad thing is I lost the memory card.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, but it was a good experience lah, other than the loss of memory card. But I guess that for people who are really exploring the digital nomad stuff, right? You realize if you change the environment, you could actually be a lot more productive. I was producing like 2 to 3 videos per day recorded because it was out of my comfort zone, but it was very comfortable. Yeah, because at home you tend to laze around like, I'll just procrastinate, I'll do this tomorrow. But outside of it, then you realize, hey, I cannot waste time. I already paid money for this.
Yes.
I better make sure I spend my time recording the best videos out of me. So I had very good impressions of Chiang Mai.
That's good. Okay. That's awesome. So the other thing maybe I can share with your guests, with your viewers, is that living in a big country like Thailand. So when you reach out to me, I was actually in Bangkok. To fly from Chiang Mai to Bangkok during off-peak periods, it's only the duration is always the same, 1 hour, and it was only $40. So in my mind was blown now. In Singapore, $40 is like Changi Airport to like City Hall.
Yeah.
$40. But here now I'm in a completely different environment, completely different climate as well. I also didn't realize that. It took me a while to really appreciate that Chiang Mai actually is much cooler. So in December, if you ever go back there, it can go up to single digit,
Yeah.
Like especially you go up the mountains and everything. So it's like, hey, you're in Southeast Asia, but you're having winter. So it's like a it's
it like
like accessible winter.
The Genting of Thailand.
Yeah. So it's like, but then you get to eat Thai food.
Oh yeah.
When it's cold, wow, that's to me one of the best like simple pleasures.
Yeah, and I like the shopping malls in Thailand, like really very well made. Singapore, although it's good as well, but it's very crowded. So many people, right? So in Thailand it's much more spread out. And then they have all these like small stores that very interesting one. You won't find in Singapore. All these like people do their handmade stuff, handmade craft, and then they go to the market to really display what their goods.
Yes.
Very interesting stuff. So I think, is there any like culture shock to you, or things that you couldn't get used to even after living a few years there, or like very different from Singapore that really appreciate what Singapore is for?
To appreciate Singapore, I think public transport is very cliche. We keep talking about it, but it is true. Like right now that I have a baby, I have to drive.
Yeah.
I have to drive. Whereas in Singapore, I tried. It's not 100% comfortable, but with your stroller and everything, you still can. right? Every station, there definitely will be an elevator, then definitely will be a ramp, right? It's very friendly to and inclusive as well. The other thing that I think Singapore I took for granted and I was reminded is Singapore is actually the best place to make money,
Yeah, I agree.
to earn. To spend, okay, some people go JB to spend, go Bangkok, they go Europe, whatever, right? Sure, spending money is easy. And you pick up anybody on the street, they know how to spend. But to make money, to earn, I think Singapore, of course, it's not easy, of course, especially in this current economy. I want to be sensitive to those people who are struggling to find a job. But relative to other places, like when I come to Chiang Mai, I look at some of the jobs available there, and you said they were very hardworking, right? But the return that they get is so little.
Yeah, I was looking at some of these posters where they were hiring. It's like less than $6 per hour, or even much less.
Yeah, much less. And they stand on their feet all the time. It's not like in Singapore you can order with a QR code and then like the person come out when you're ready and everything. They're always there. That's why the hospitality is so good. So I think Singapore is the best place to make money. Like to earn, but not only earn, but to invest. And back to the investment piece, we have zero capital gains tax. There are so many rich people, rich families, they come to Singapore to set up offices and invest here because it's so favorable.
Right.
So we coming from here, we need to take advantage of it, right? Why let other people take advantage of it? We gotta also make use of the favorable conditions as well.
Yeah, so it really depends on whether you are the spending phase or you are an accumulating phase. Like 2024, when I moved to Malaysia, I thought like I would just, live back life, enjoy it. But I realized I don't really enjoy it because I'm still accumulating, but I'm not as productive in Malaysia because Malaysia environment is too comfortable. Like I could get by with very little. But that also means that I have less motivation to work harder, which is why I realized that when I came back to Singapore like late last year, I realized the productivity level just spike up because the big environment is just pushing you.
Yes.
Yeah, it goes with the flow lah. So it really depends on what kind of environment do you thrive in right now. Are you in the accumulating phase or are you in the spending phase or retirement phase? Was that the same for you?
Yes, let me share this observation with you and tell me what you think. Holidays. Going for a big holiday. When does a typical family, you think of things like, when do they typically go and bring their whole family? Like, okay, finally we can enjoy a big holiday. When times are good or when times are bad?
Good lah.
Times are good, right? You got your promotion, you got your bonus, everything you bring. So if everybody times are good, they go for holiday, right? What happens? Holiday prices
Big prices.
kick prices, right?
Yeah.
So you remember right after COVID when things opened, everything surged in price, right? Because COVID was such a good for economy, right? They were printing money and people was working from home and everything. Yet actually, I argue that we should do it the opposite. We should be consuming when times are bad because things will be cheaper.
Yeah.
And when times are good, you should be out there hustling. But psychologically, we think the other way around. So I'll give you another example. When times are good, I ask my friends, like, hey, do you want to interview for another company? There's an opening. They say, no lah, my company now, things are so good.
It's the comfort zone.
It's the comfort zone. But when things are bad, when do people interview the most? Like right now, right?
Yes.
Right now, everybody's interviewing, right? But there's no job because times are bad. So if we inverse it, if we just pivot and inverse it, same thing with going against the herd mentality in investment, you actually can get more out of life.
Correct.
So for me, moving to Thailand was that I wanted to pivot. Like instead of pushing and grinding it out just to find another job in this economy, I take a step back. I enjoy and I pursue my other passion projects and see where it brings me. And if it doesn't work out, then when the economy comes back again, and you always will, then I'll apply for a job. Yeah. And then what I'm doing right now, YouTube, is related to tech anyway. So it's not as if I'm doing something completely different. So I bring that experience with me to the next tech employer if I ever want to work, which honestly, I hope they don't watch it because I don't want to work. I don't want to work. But if I have to, I see synergies with it. So that's how that was my thought process.
That's interesting, right? Because you highlighted the fact that you really don't want to work unless this one can really buy you over. I think I'm trying to adopt the same kind of mindset really where I really don't want to take in more brand deals unless you pay me very well. Which is why this video...
You introduced me to but I know where you're coming from.
Yeah, right. So, because at one point in time, you will realize that there's only so much money to earn and so much time to entertain that many clients. Okay, at one point you realize I need to charge higher so that I can drop some clients. So yeah, I mean, that is a privilege, speaking from privilege. I don't want to mistake it. But I'm so curious, like what are your living costs in Chiang Mai? How does it really compare to Singapore based on what you shared, right? Like the rental of the condo, the expenses of maintaining and owning a car, plus your, domestic flights or even flights to Singapore. Like how much are you running like every month?
So the condo that I was renting in Tampines, which is far from city center, was about 3,002 or 3,005. I can't remember. 3,002,
Two bedroom or three bedroom?
two bedroom.
Two bedroom.
Two bedroom. Square feet was, I think, 700, 800.
Okay.
Yeah. Very, very nice. The condo has a lot of things. It's the Treasure, the huge
Oh,
one.
treasures, I know.
Yeah, he went viral. They have 24-hour gym. They have sauna and everything. So it's very nice. But I moved to Chiang Mai, and this condo is also relatively new, about I think a few years old. I'm paying 650, but for one bedroom. One bedroom. The reason why I got one bedroom is because this is the landlord that was open to let me do one-to-one. So every month I just
Renewing the lease.
renew the lease. Yeah. So Thailand, the minimum lease is 1 month, whereas in Singapore it's 6 months, right? So immediately your risk appetite changes. Because in Singapore, for you to like move out of your house, move out of your parents' house, you need to find someone that's willing to rent to you 6 months. But most landlord usually 1 year, minimum 1 year. So 1 year times 3K, let's say you find a basic place 3K, is 36K
Of commitment.
just so that you can find yourself or like give yourself some breathing space. Whereas in Thailand, it's 1 month and the content is also much smaller. So then with your own space, your creativity, your possibilities, your confidence is all different as well. So yeah, I was paying 650 for that. Food wise, surprisingly, is not that cheap. It's not that cheap. It is cheaper for sure, but it's just like in JB. I'm sure if you go to JB or go to Bangkok these days, it is cheap, but not like wow, so cheap. Because they also have cost of living pressures, they also got gentrified. So it is cheaper, but not that cheap. Car is something that I will share more in my future videos, but Thailand is actually, I found out Thailand manufacture most of the cars in this region. So car cost is cheap. They don't have COE. I walk into a showroom, then I was just like asking if I want to get a loan, how much, then harder for me to get a loan, correct, foreigner. But I just asked if I were to get a loan, what's the interest rate? So it's 1+%, similar to Singapore. But then I said, oh, so then is it a 10-year loan? Then they look at me like, huh? Like 10 years, what's wrong with you? It's a maximum 4 years only. Oh. So you can see the amount that they charge. And 4 years on a Thai salary, not Singapore salary.
Yeah.
Which is much lower than Singapore. So you can see the huge difference in terms of car ownership. Most people will the counterpoint is that, that's why there's so much traffic, right? Because it has so much street there, right? But you yourself have been there before. You've been to Bangkok, it's very traffic, yes.
Bangkok is horrible.
Horrible. But if you go to Chiang Mai, pleasant, smooth. So this is the hang, right? You enjoy the same price point, but you don't go and squeeze with everyone in the city center.
And to my knowledge, I'm not sure if Chiang Mai has any public transport. Do they?
They don't have public transport. They don't have, it's such a small city. Tallest building, I think, is 6-story high. Tallest building, like,
I wonder my hotel is only 5 floors.
But it's because they grow this way. They don't grow this way.
Yeah.
And so it's not that developed. They don't have a train or whatever, but they have this thing called Songtel. So next time you go, the red color truck.
Oh, I remember now.
Yeah. So why don't you share with your viewers what do you think?
I was looking at this like red color truck, right? So I'm sure in other Southeast Asian countries you have a similar version. So it's like people hop on and hop off, and then they give like a fixed tip or bus fare. And I was Googling it and then realized that there are fixed routes around the city, but you just have to let the driver know where you're going so they know when to drop you off. But how much is it?
I think 20 baht or like 10 baht, like depending on the route and depending on the tourists, how tourists concentrated that is. But it's like your hop on, hop off service. Yeah,
that is a really interesting concept. And I'm sure if you're watching this from any other international communities, there will be something similar. I think let's move to the part on super commuting, because he's known as this title of super commuter, traveling between Thailand and Singapore, and then every month he just come in, give a few university lectures, and then he hits back home. Yeah, share with us this idea of super commuting. Like, how did it even started and what is the progress right now?
Okay, so I'll answer the last question first. Right now, I'm not doing it because my baby just born. So I'm giving myself, this is the another benefit of working for yourself. I'm giving myself unlimited, unpaid paternity leave. Where it came from was I actually got inspiration by people who work in Malaysia, live in Malaysia. So, there are people who wake up at 4 a.m., then they take the bus, across the causeway, come to work in Singapore, and then in the evening time they go back to Malaysia. It's very tiring, but they were able to double or triple their income, right? Because if they are from Malaysia, their family is there, their cost of living, everything is there, right? That was the old way of doing it, where you have to physically come into Singapore every day. But now with like work from home or hybrid working, or a lot of the economy is digital, a lot of knowledge-based work is actually can be done remotely. Then I was like, okay, is there a way that I can like come to Singapore and enjoy earlier we mentioned that Singapore is the best place to earn. But then I think we can all agree that Singapore is not the best place to spend.
Yeah.
Right. So then how can I like game this situation out? So that was what I came up with. So at that point I was teaching at NUS. I've been teaching there for 3 years. I was very lucky to get it because back then the dean was very open to having external people come to teach their students. And my page was, I work for Google. Again, corporate identity, corporate. I work for Google. Like, your students, do you want me to talk to them or not? Like, I can tell them the ins and outs. And I'm also from Singapore. I also graduated from the uni ecosystem. So I can know their anxiety. I can know their FOMO feeling of like, oh, everybody's getting internship, everybody's getting their offer. So I can bring that perspective and strategy to them. So that's how I picked myself. And I was very lucky to get that. And Google was very accommodating to let me work 2 jobs. So that also helped me accelerate my FIRE process by, over-employing myself. The good thing about working part-time with NUS is that I only need to turn up for the teaching and the marking, which can be done at home. I don't need to attend any meetings, any admin. So it actually got me thinking that when I was younger, I had this conversation with my mom, and I remember she told me that never ever find part-time work. Never find part-time work, find full-time work. Full-time work got CPF, got more stability. You don't need to keep renewing your contract. But now that because of digitalization and work from home and everything, and the ability to travel cheaply because of budget flights as well, which at my parents' time they didn't. Actually, part-time work may suit you at certain phases of your life as well. So that's how I thought about it.
Okay, but what are your thoughts about going back to it? Like, would you see yourself in the near future, especially when your baby grows up, you go back to this kind of super commuting style?
Probably not. Probably not. Hopefully my YouTube thing takes off. So, but it was fun. It was fun. I was doing it not really. The money was good on a per hourly rate for sure. But talking to the students, it gives me a different type of meaning that sadly, I didn't ever felt this way in the corporate world. And I told this to the dean as well. Which is kind of ironic, right? Because I feel so empowered, like telling these students, but then I'm preparing them to go to a corporate world that they don't feel this way. So but we all have to go through that.
I think everyone has to go through that phase. Like, you go through the education system and then you go to corporate and then you realize that maybe what you've learned in school is not applicable to corporate. And then you realize all this corporate BS, the way to put it, maybe something very different from what you expect, right? I guess to really end it off, right, I want to bring back to this FI question because I've been asking myself this question. Like, I'm very sure you have been in the same path before. Like, when is there a time where it is enough? Because I think you are very clear on it. Like, once you reach your 2 million and then you got laid off by people, and then now you're doing all this part-time work that generates the income. For myself, it's like after I reach a certain number, then I realize, hey, is there a bigger number to work towards to? And
That's right.
I don't know, because I'm still quite young, considered when I post my content on YouTube, people tell me, you're so many more years ahead of you. Would you regret what you want to do? Like, what's the point of dying so early? And yeah, I always ask myself this question, even though I already had an answer, but over the years, like, I kind of question myself every year, like, to what end? So this question is more for myself. Maybe you have been in this path before, so share with us.
So firstly, I just want to comment on the point where like your viewers say like, hey, you're so young, you sure you're going to retire, you got nothing to do and everything, people are bored, right? I get that question a lot as well. In fact, the video that I just posted 2 days ago, someone said this, like, you're making a mistake. This person said, you're making a mistake retiring at 30 because you'll be bored and then you I can tell you now that I consider myself retired, like with no full-time job. I am busy every day. Busy every day. Like, right, for us to find this time slot, it's also like a lot of back and forth. Like, your life, once you have full control over it, you will then have the headspace, the energy, the patience, the excitement, the enthusiasm to fill it up with things to enrich your life. So it is only because we never had that feeling before. We never had that breathing space before. And it was always occupied by a company, work, that you think that therefore there is nothing else in life. Really life, like there's nothing else without job. Because when you are in the job, I ask you what you want to do. You tell me I want to do this, I'll do this, but I want no time.
Director.
Yeah, I want to rest, I want to start my business, but I don't have time, right? So that's just my little comment on. Now, in terms of what is your perfect number, I went through the same process you went through. So again, earlier the episode you said, don't look up to someone, like don't think that I also like, oh, I'm very clean cut. The moment you got this, you straight away look at that. Like that is a bigger number. Then once you get that, you keep shifting the goalposts. So at least that was my experience as well. I keep shifting the goalposts. A quote that I saw on LinkedIn from another fellow Google employee there, left on his own. He wasn't laid off. He quit and he was a director. He was a director. So he shocked, okay, it went viral on LinkedIn because I think he's Singaporean as well, but he's based in the US.
Okay.
So think about it, director at a tech company of Google, working in Mountain View, which is the capital, California, Bay Area. You check all the boxes and he walked away from it. And the favorite quote from his sharing is, I don't need to chase money I don't need with time I don't have.
Wow. That's a powerful quote.
That's very, and she's a parent as well. So I became a parent now. I immediately could relate to it. So once you hit your number, you have to accept that this is enough and I go do my other stuff. Now, but human psychologists, you always like, oh, but I want that one, but what if I do another year? What if I do another year?
Yeah, it's always one more year syndrome.
Yes. Like 2 more, back when I was working, it's always 2 more years. 2 more years, I get the next title bump. Once I meet this level from analyst to associate to VP to director, then I will quit. Then I get my bonus. There's a reason why they pay our bonus at the end of the year, right? They don't pay it every month, right? So that you keep your day. So so that's how I saw it.
Okay. Now, I also want to talk a bit about your YouTube business, right? Like how are you currently or even outside of YouTube, how are you currently monetizing or?
Yeah, and you're using a very generous word, business. Like honestly, I'm doing this out of fun because I always wanted to do it. Funnily, I used to work in Google, so Google will be the most supportive employer. So, if in case you don't know, if you're an employee of Google, if you want to start a YouTube channel, no problem.
Yeah.
No need to say anything. But yeah, because if you're supporting your own business, the only thing is you cannot talk about what you do at work, like confidential stuff. But if you want to talk about what I eat at Google, how my day is like and everything, they're very supportive. Just like if you work for TikTok, they are, in fact, some of them expect you to do it also. Right? So I did it really just to see how it will go. In terms of how I'm monetizing, you will know, right? It's through the ads, through the brand sponsorship. But it is nothing near to work in the corporate world. The variability and unpredictability is just too much already. And even in your space where you've been doing some years, I can confidently guess that there will be certain months where you're very busy, but certain months you get no income at all.
Yeah, you get anxiety on both ways. Like too much projects, cannot finish. How? Then suddenly the next month, no projects. How?
Yeah. So whereas work is like every month your salary comes in, right? Like of course there will be peak periods, low periods, and everything. But my point of view is that's the reason why you work in the first place. You work for that predictability and that stability, and that's why you do something that you don't really like. But then if you say like, oh, YouTube or like, starting my own business is something I want to do, but I want the pay predictability. Don't have. You have to accept that trade-off. So the earlier we accept that trade-off, the better it is.
Okay. Having said that, how are you like reporting your income now? Because I run another business called Solo Baseline. consult and educate people who want to set up their businesses in Singapore. And in this case, if you are watching from international community, Singapore is one of the best places to start a business because of low corporate tax and very favorable business rules. So I want
And
to
super easy, super easy.
what's your current setup?
To add on, that's super easy to set up. So I actually set up my own company as well.
Nice.
What, $300 or something like that
Yeah.
to set up. That's it. And then because my revenue is below a certain amount, every year the annual filing is so easy. Just click a button only, right? So my YouTube revenue, all my brand sponsorships, and my wife, she's also works as well. Everything goes towards this incorporation, right? Then we pay ourselves a salary, we pay ourselves a CPF as well.
So you learn all that yourself?
On YouTube or on YouTube. Sorry. No, not just YouTube. I give the government some credit. They have a lot. But I agree, it took me a long time to figure it out. Then there was once I filed wrongly, they fined me straight away.
Oh,
So, okay,
straight away. So harsh.
you know, if you change like something nominal about your company, so
Yes.
if you change like a director or you change the company name or change something
Yes.
significant,
Anything.
you have to do it within 14 days or 7 days of the thing happening. So I don't know, right? So they asked me when. So let's say I can't remember what it is. Let's say change company name. So they asked when was this effective. Then I said when was this effective? I just anyhow pick a date. I pick start of the month. And it was the end of the month already. Then straight away they said, oh, because you're supposed to declare it in 14 days, you didn't do it. You only do it now. You need to pay a ticket of like $200 or something like that to Accra. So I went to go see MPO. I said, hey, I just started a business. I don't know. So they never tell me how am I supposed to know it's 14 days or 7 days.
Nice.
Then they managed to waive it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So that really reminds me, right? Like why I started solo business, because we make all these like very rookie mistakes when we start our business. Like we don't even know what we're doing and no one taught us how to do it. Even though there are so many resources out there on the internet, and I'm sure with AI and Google you can search all of that. But if you really want the shortcut and correct answer and you don't want to waste all your effort in the wrong direction, that's when you should look for solo biz, right? That's what my second business is about. It's nothing about YouTube. It's more about B2B consulting, education. And if you're also an entrepreneur, feel free to check out the link in the description. And that's where we can help you set up and make sure your business is in the right direction. So once again, I just want to thank you, Shao, again for coming to the studio.
Thanks.
And this has been a great time. If you want to look out on Shao's content, his channel, I'll link it in the description. It's basically his name, Shao Chun. Okay, I'll see you in the next episode where I interview more interesting guests. Thank you very much.